We're here with Alex Tanguay, assistant coach of the Detroit Red Wings. Alex, can you share some simple zone entry concepts that minor hockey coaches could potentially implement to create scoring opportunities on the rush?
Yeah, sure. Entries need to be simple. You can't overcomplicate the game. You want to promote spacing. Spacing is the most important thing for me. So when you enter the zone, one of the things that we talk about all the time is not looking to turn up in those areas. You want to expand the zone as much as possible. So, like some of the best players I played with early in my career, in Colorado, you can think of the Peter Forsberg, you think of the Joe Sakic. They look to expand the zone, so they're picking up as much speed as possible in the neutral zone, so they can push back the defenseman. They can create their own space. Second thing that's very easy is having somebody drive the net. It looks simple. Not everybody wants to do it. We all want to make the drop pass, and it looks pretty when you go behind and stuff like that. But everybody tracks so hard. Even in youth hockey now, I've got young kids, so even in youth hockey, people, back check so hard that if you have somebody driving the net, what it does is it expands the zone. So now all of a sudden, you take one, sometimes two defender right in this areas, and now it gives you a full zone to work with. So really, the spacing of player with the puck, but somebody without the puck, the first one, put your head down, get yourself to the blue paint, expand the zones, and if there's no play, that guy that's at the blue paint, you just put the puck in behind the net, and now from the simple zone entry, you've created offense and you've set your own zone play.
It seems like a lot of teams try to achieve middle ice on their entries through all levels of hockey. Can you describe the advantages of that?
Well, obviously entering through the middle gives you more option. You cannot score if you're away from the middle. That's where, this area, you want to always find ways to get there. So if you can upgrade the middle at any time, we all suggest, I don't know any coaches that will suggest against it. But, if you can't, there still has got to be ways out there. So the spacing for me, like we just talked about, is something that's very important.
What habits and details can players work on to become better playmakers?
Better playmakers. So the ability for any athlete to be good is your ability for your brain to process things. So there's a multitude of things that you can do. You can get better physically. You have to work on your skill. You have to work on your creativity. But, the two things that are most important is, like simple things like scanning the ice, taking a picture. So as I'm going on the ice, and the best example for me would be a guy like Leo Messi. They did a report on him at the World Cup of how much he scanned the field before the ball got to him. Well, hockey players, it's the same thing. You want to have a broad picture, an image of what everything that's going on around you on the ice. So if one of your teammates is moving to the left, well, if I'm looking directly at the puck and I'm not looking, I can't see him. But if I'm scanning before the puck gets to him, now I've got this images. So now as I'm getting this puck, this reaction become instant because I've already seen them. So the pre-scan is something that for young coaches, you have to preach with your players. You have to build drills that you prepare them for that as you're going that. So that's the number one thing. And the number two things for me with the younger generation nowadays is they don't watch the game. They watch highlights, but they don't watch the game. Go to, an NHL game. Sit at the very top of the rink and watch the whole play develop. It's like chess. Pieces are moving this way. Well, this is where you got to go. And now, even at the NHL level, we have crazy amount of teaching to young players coming up because they watch the highlights. They watch YouTube. They watch the Twitter and the Instagram and the feedback from the game. So they've watched the goals. They've watched the toe drag 17 times, but they have not watched the little picks that guys do to set themselves free.
Yeah. Is there anything specific when you're scanning that players should be identifying?
Well, not really. For me, is having an understanding, because even if I scan fast, you have to be able to retain the image. You have to see those things quick, so that takes practice. It's a mental aptitude. It's a mental skill, if you will, that your brain's got to react to. It's got to process, and then from there, the brain sends the signal as well to your body to move and to do all those things. So all those things are very important.
How can coaches encourage players to create scoring opportunities away from the puck?
Well, as a coach, you have to promote everybody on the ice. So when there's a good play, I think it's important, especially at a youth level, because the kids sometimes, like we were talking about zone entries, about the guy driving the net. Well, he's as important sometimes as the guy making the play. So you have to make sure that you really reward every kid on the ice, and you build up those situations through either videos, through team practices, through different things, that you make sure that you include all 5 guys on the ice. When there's a goal scored, it might have been the save. It might have been, the guy that made the first body check on the forecheck. It might have been different things. So making sure that you reward everybody is really important, not only the guys that touch the puck and make the play.
What do you think makes a great line mate at all levels of the game? What kind of characteristics?
Work ethic, good teammate, and that's for any areas, the kids. You look at the kids in youth sports, like, be a good teammate to your friend, be supportive, be there, be helping them out, making sure that you do your job on the ice to the fullest so that your teammates can benefit from you. And obviously, for young coaches is build your culture. This is how we want to play. This is what our team is about. This is a work ethic that we're looking for. This is how we treat the parents. This is how I'm going to treat the kids. So making sure you set your culture is very important.
What can line mates kind of talk about to each other after a shift, whether good or bad? What kind of things?
Everything. I don't think there's any restriction. It's okay to say to your teammates, hey, I need more. You need to work in that situation. Like, it doesn't have to be rude. It doesn't have to be mean.
Yeah.
But, you have to be able to hold each other accountable. That's what makes you better, especially in sport and in hockey, because you're, unlike other sports, basketball, you can have one guy that, they play a 2-man game, they set a pick. In hockey, if you don't have the 5 guys on the ice playing for each other, sometimes, the game doesn't seem so simple.
Sure. How can coaches balance structured systems while encouraging creativity within that system?
Oh, that's an interesting question, because, you don't want to create robots. You want the kids to develop their abilities. You want the kids to develop their skills. You want their kids to, to work at their skating, work at different things. But, there's things that are non-negotiable in hockey. You have to play defense. You have to be hard to play against. You have to win your 50-50 battles. Those are all things that, regardless of the structure that you're going to play, kids are going to have to do. So as a coach, you have to set that standard, that this is something that, that your team needs. But to not be creative and not try different plays, there's time and place for every place. And for me, the one thing that I always preach to the kids, and this is like coaching youth hockey, is make your plays early. Make your plays early. Why wait for, to make your deke that there's somebody else on the other team with a stick within stick length? So if you're making a play, I can still move you and you're not stick length away. So if I fumble the puck, I make anything, it's not a turnover. It's not a situation where you put yourself at risk. So make your plays early, make sure it's away from the stick, and you can be just as creative, and things will move a little bit faster.
So you mentioned being hard to play against. What do you think that means as a team, to be hard to play against?
Hard to play against, meaning, being on par, being connected, making sure that you know what your role is on the ice. So being hard to play against. On the forecheck, sometimes you can be hard to play against and not have the puck. But, this is the way certain teams will forecheck. And F1 needs to be there, F2 needs to be there, F3 needs to be there. The 2Ds needs to have a certain position so that we've established what we want to create. But if one of those 5 guys that I just mentioned on the ice doesn't move as fast, now all of a sudden, you're not that hard, because there's spacing somewhere. So, like, being connected, making sure that you're on top of the task, make you hard to play against. And also, there's all kinds of different players. You've got the really big kids, especially at youth hockey. You'll have the kids that have physically mature. You have the kids that are in the middle. You have the kids that are undersized and under strength, if you will, a little bit. Well, there's ways for all those kids to win different battles and use the different tools that they have. So, like, it's just making sure that you find ways to win your own battle.
What habits and details can players focus on when possessing the puck on the power play?
Well, when possessing the puck on the power play, it's funny because I talk about Instagram, I talk about Twitter, but, when you watch the best power plays in the NHL, yeah, there's time that they take their time and they set things up. But there's also time where they're very quick with the puck. So having a plan is always, and regardless of what coaches are going to decide to what their plan is with their team, making sure that you have speed while you go through this plan. Because if you have execution and it's slow, well, the penalty killers are going to have times to react. So you want to speed up your process, and that is coaching. That, for youth hockey coaches, for power play reps and stuff like that, you want to make sure that whatever plan you're going to have and you're going to use as a concept for your team, make sure that when you're hitting those points, it has to be quick. So now it gets to the top, flank, low, and then, pieces are moving. Not only the puck, but the players are moving. Okay, let's react quick to this position. So now it's like you're always trying to be one step ahead of what the PK is doing, and you need quickness to do that.
So how has your perspective on hockey changed from going from being a player to a coach, and what advice do you have for others going through that shift?
It's funny because most players, and this is me in all honesty, I think that most players see the game very, very well. The guys that have played, whether it's at a college level, at the, at somewhat of a pro level. Obviously, the NHL is probably the top of where guys have played. But you talk to players in the NHL, and like their hockey feel is tremendous. So the transition was, now how do you put that into teaching? How do you put that into phrases that you can explain what you're seeing and stuff like that? So that's really the transition. And how do you build concepts and build an environment, whether it's through skill development, whether it's through practices, through your structure, whether it's through compete that that you have in practice. How do you build those habits now, and how can you translate those habits that you saw as a player and you feel as a player to now put them and give advice to the young players or to the players in the NHL?
You mentioned watching the game. As a youth player watching the NHL, do you have any more advice, or can you elaborate on specifics? Is it following a player? How do you recommend players to learn the game?
Sometimes, this is youth kids that we have. So we'll ask our kids, going home, is okay, what, we'll play this team. I'm living in Detroit now, so this team, the Oilers, are coming into town. So what's their forecheck? What do they do in neutral zone forecheck? What do they do in the D zone? So now, the kids, they're paying attention to the game, but now all of a sudden they've got to come in. So next day they talk about it together. They, this is what the forecheck looked like. This is what they were trying to accomplish. So now you can set that up just by setting little goals like that. And on an individual basis is exactly that. Okay, who's your favorite player in Edmonton? Obviously, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl are probably going to come out a lot, but okay, watch them play. What do they do with the puck? What do they do without the puck? Name me 3 things that they do well. Name me 3 things that they could do a little bit better. And so it forces the kids to, whether they go to the game or they watch on TV, well, they're going to pay special attention to those players. And then sometimes it might just ignite something that, oh, yeah, I've seen, this player did this, and, this is what the result was, so maybe I can implement some of that stuff in my game.
Alex, you've had a long career in the NHL and have played with a lot of players. What do you think makes a great leader?
I think first and foremost for me, for hockey, is the ability to show up every day, to drive, it's careers, and even, year, from year to year, for every youth kids that are watching. Every year to year is different. You have a month that you're playing great. You have a month that you feel great. You have a month that you don't feel so good, that you struggle through 2 weeks and stuff like that. Real leaders, they show up. They show up on every day. They do their work. They make what they have to do. They're good teammates. They put the team first. I think that's real leadership first and foremost, before the talking and before anything else. The character of the way they do things is number one.